Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving. And in this video, I want to talk to you about that little voice in your head, or that nagging, loud voice in your head, your inner critic. And I want you to know we all have one. We all have one. So don't feel like there's something wrong with you. Just know that it's a human condition, okay? Oftentimes I find that the nagging voice can sometimes sound like ourselves, but sometimes it sounds like maybe an old role model or a parent's voice or wherever. So whatever your nagging voice, your inner critic sounds like, just that's the voice that I'm talking about. So I have some ideas here for you on how to catch that critic and how to work with this, right? So how do we better evolve as people to understanding that we have a negative critic in our head, or it sounds like it, or it feels like it. How do we go about living our life and not, it's sort of like I can think of the critic kind of like pulling you down into the water. It's like, come down, right? It's never lifting you up is the first thing I want to say. Is like the voice of your highest self. People say, well, I need to listen to that voice. It's keeping me out of danger, or something bad could happen, or it knows what's best for me. No, sorry. It knows how to keep you safe. It's partly driven by your animal instinct brain, okay? So it's sending signals, it's picking up on things depending on your state, one of the things, but it's also keeping you safe. It's reminding you of things like, oh, wait, you could get hurt here, like a saber-toothed tiger might jump out of the woods. There haven't been saber-toothed tigers coming out to harm us in a long while, but that's how our brain still works. So just know that the distinction is, if it sounds like loving thoughts, if it sounds like affirming thoughts, if it sounds like thoughts of appreciation and supporting you, it's that positive, uplifting feeling, that's coming from your highest self. That's coming from intuitive wisdom and what you most want. If it sounds like berating, belittling, critiquing, judging you, you're not good enough, you didn't do this, that's what's wrong with you, all that stuff, those voices are coming from a different place. Sources like, from your disempowered state, you're tapping into energetic thoughts that just exist, number one, but also some of that is from conditioning, trying to keep you safe and out of trouble, or what your mind thinks, what it thinks that will keep you safe. So first is the big point I want you to get out of this is awareness. Being more aware of the dialogue going on in your mind. And you might be like, I can't help but be aware of it. Well, maybe that's true, but you're also letting it go on. You're also letting it continue. So I want you to take action, not to just be aware of it, but the first step is being more aware of it, like lots of awareness, right? And I find that for people who continue to battle with that, or continue to have sort of like that feeling they're being drugged down, they don't even know that the voice is talking to them, that it's happening, if you will. They're like, oh, yeah, I did think that, right? So lots of awareness, lots of understanding and appreciation for the thoughts that are, what do we have, maybe 60,000 thoughts a day. So, and the next distinction is knowing that those thoughts, those critiques, those things that are pulling you down are not you. You are the one listening to those thoughts, yes. You're the one hearing, you're the observer, and that's the role you want to play. And that's a big distinction from believing every thought that you think, right? So you have a thought like, I'm bad, this is wrong, I shouldn't have done that, or I'm not good enough, or I always am late, or I didn't, whatever, right? Whatever those nagging, weighing you down, critical thoughts are that are meant to keep you safe, keep you small, what have you, wherever they're coming from, know that they're not coming from you or your highest self, and you are not those thoughts. You can choose those thoughts. This is the next distinction, and that is, don't attach yourself to them, right? Don't integrate them. Don't believe them, if you will, right? It's understanding and giving yourself space from them and going, oh, I just had a thought. Think of it like a thought bubble, like, oh, and it'll pass. Right? It's when we attach ourselves to it, we believe it, we own it, and then we live from it, and then we take action from it, we build up momentum around it, we're like, I shouldn't have done that, and then downhill, or this isn't going to go well, and it never turns out right, and then more thoughts are magnetically attracted to that thought, and you're going to get more momentum. So giving it the space, giving it the presence of, like, you're not that thought. You're not every thought that you think. You have thoughts, but but you're not every thought that you think, is a clarifying distinction I want you to make. And so that you're empowered to choose the ones that support you and let go or release the ones that don't. And oftentimes, what I want you to understand is in the work of where these thoughts are coming from, especially when they're belittling and they're beating you up, or they're just keeping you from danger, or maybe they're causing you to want to take on in an addiction or a habit, like this urge to binge or go do this thing, or get away from whatever isn't feeling good, right? You get an emotional upset, something triggers you, something sends you off, just like that. And without enough self-awareness, you don't realize that your state has just changed. You are suddenly, engulfed in these thoughts, and it's creating an emotional trigger, and chemicals are flooding through your body that create the composition of whatever that emotion is. So it's noticing that I've attached myself to that thought. Can I let it go, right? And so in the work of, like we have an urge or something is upsetting to us, sometimes there's this little voice inside of ourselves that doesn't sound like the critic, but it's a call to feel something. It's a call to experience something. It's a call from something inside of you. Some people would say it's, parts of your personality. It's your little girl. It's your parts of yourself, right? Wherever that comes from, with lots of research out there about self-compassion. So in those moments where maybe you're triggered or you're emotionally upset or something and you just want to act or lunge or run away or what have you, if you can give yourself that self-awareness to notice what you're thinking, notice and be present with, and give yourself compassion, steep self-compassion. There's lots out there that says if we can learn to understand our own humanity, like, hey, we're imperfect beings, right? And we all are. It's a common human experience is we make mistakes. We get upset, right? We don't do something that we said we were going to do, or we acted in a way that we didn't mean to act, or we said something we didn't mean to say. So that happens. So it's flooding yourself with compassion and treating yourself like the internal dialogue, what's going on inside of you, is one of how you would treat a friend or someone you cared about. And that inner critic, that one that's dragging you down, is never doing that. That's always defeating you. It's just pushing you down, pushing you down. And the space of self-compassion is saying, what's there? What needs to be felt? What do I most need right now? What else is there, right? It's giving it space and saying, how can I best support you? What do I most need right now? What would feel best to me? What's a thought I could think, something I could do or not do in this moment, right? And so it's noticing that critic is criticizing you, or maybe there's an inner child or an underlying energy that needs to be felt, creating that distinction, right? And not believing all of those thoughts. It's having the presence of the observer, right? Like the inner wise woman, noticing. Sometimes we get ourselves in different energies and in different planes of being. Sometimes we're that warrior and we're charging and we're doing all these things. And other times we can be in our wizardly energy of noticing and observing, that intuitive sense, a more feminine energy, right? And we can put ourselves in that place of just listening and understanding for, is the critic talking to me? Are they beating me up? Is that serving me? Can I not attach to those thoughts? And maybe it's a dialogue with that, like, oh yeah, what else? What else do you have to say about that? Like, what else do you think I'm doing wrong? But it's from a place of, you're having those thoughts are coming to me, but I'm not going to attach to them. I'm not going to believe them all. And it will just sort of wash away. And once they're kind of been heard, it's like, oh, okay. And the same with that sense of self. If we have that underlying urge from within, there's something inside of us that's crying to be felt or heard or understood or experienced or healed. It's treating ourselves with that compassion as well. So noticing that critic, working with that critic, not, I've read things where people say, oh, shut up, or, I don't believe you, or, arguing with it. Nah, I don't think that helps. While I would love to say, the hell with you, I don't find that helps. It's just like, oh, there it is again, right? And the alternative, or what you could begin to work on, is feeding yourself, feeding your mind with daily positive energy, daily affirmations in the morning that do feed that. And I found for myself over years of practicing this with, not feeding the critic, and instead feeding, what I most want through morning affirmations, meditation, videos that empower me and make me feel good, and working with my positive self-talk, working with my inner dialogue. Like, it now comes to me. Like, uplifting ideas come from within me, and those I attach to, those I resonate with, and I say, oh, thank you. Thank you, self, for reminding me I am amazing. I did a good job, right? And sometimes I'll say that out loud just so that I can own that at the same time. So first is know when that negative inner critic is pulling you down. Lots of self-awareness. Give it some space. Hear it. Allow it maybe to share some more things, but don't attach to it. Don't believe it. Don't identify with it, if you will. And then if you have something bubbling up within you, an emotional need or upset or an urge or something like that, give it some space with loving compassion. Hey, I'm having this experience. What do I most need right now? What do I most need to support myself right now? Getting yourself moving up that emotional scale to feel better so you can make better choices, And then eventually, if you can work on that positive, affirming self-talk over time, the words that come up from within you will empower you and replace. You can't think two thoughts at the same time. So if you've got more of this positive energy and vibration working, day in, day out, year in, year out, it will serve you and feed you, and this will die down. It's been my experience anyway. I hope that works for you. I welcome your comments. Enjoy.